This is a picture of me and my mom when I was a kid. My mom was so young and full of life. I just think about all of the struggles that she dealt with. She was my superhero because she got through it all. Words can't describe how much I miss my mom. I miss her every day. Like, it's been a struggle without her. It's been a struggle, growing into a woman with no guidance. So all I think about is how different things would be if she was here. I miss her like crazy.
Isaiah was born evil. I've seen his evilness come out. I've seen it in his face. When Isaiah made threats, I believed him. I don't know if it was something in his eyes. He just looked crazy to me. I can't really explain it, but as a kid, I just knew something wasn't right. That monster was just waiting to come out.
So, we are originally from Oakland, California. We moved to Arizona in the year 2000. I'm the oldest of 5. I think that my mom was born to be a mom because no matter how many of us it was very natural to her. I was 11 years old when my mom met Isaiah Patterson. I will never forget it. We walked through the door. I saw him standing in the kitchen with my mom, all hugged up on my mom. This is a 60-something-year-old man at the time. My mom was almost 30, trying to hug us and play with us, and we were just like, no.
It's nice to meet you.
He didn't have a good vibe to him. His aura was very fake. Usually when my mom dates someone, we don't get that right off the bat.
From what I can remember, I know he came on very strong. I was just thrown off. I didn't want him touching me. I don't know if I can sense it then as a child, but I was uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable because once he came, he never went away after that. We were stuck with him.
We didn't see the red flags right away, but slowly but surely, we definitely started seeing some of them come out. Once Isaiah moved in with us, chaos followed.
Before he moved in with us in the house, we were with her all the time. We had some hard times. We had to sleep on floors and all these other things, but it never felt bad because we were together. So it didn't feel like something was wrong. As long as we were all together, as long as my mom was there, we could be anywhere. We could sleep anywhere. Didn't matter. When Isaiah came into the picture, the dynamics completely changed. Completely. One day, I remember he and my mom were in the room, and I wanted to get to my mom and I wanted to talk to her about something. And she was always available to me, so I just opened the door.
Hey, Mom.
Tried to talk to my mom.
Hey, baby.
And he got upset. When he was angry, I can't really describe it other than he just would kind of turn into something else. He kind of looked flustered, and then he pushed me out the door and he slammed the door in my face.
We're not doing this now.
And I remember just thinking, like, what just happened? Like, my mom would never let anyone treat us like that. So in that moment, I was shocked, I was hurt, I was upset. That was a moment where I knew I can't stand this man, like, because it was so uncalled for. And I didn't understand why he did it. I just felt like he wanted my mom all to herself.
So Isaiah was jealous of our relationship with my mom. I definitely think that he thought of her as a possession instead of a partner. I didn't like the way that he was controlling her and telling her what to do because that wasn't normal for her. We weren't used to being shut off away from our mom. That change was tough.
My little sister was the baby of the family, and she took well to Isaiah, more so because she was so young. Like, if you gave her candy, she was your friend. So I just remember me and my sister, we were home from school. At the time, my mom wasn't home. We see a donut, and it's wrapped up in a napkin. We're kids, and we see something sweet, and we want it. I told my sister, I'm like, we should ask Isaiah for it to see if he'll let us have it. My sister goes in my mom's room and asks him for the donut, and of course, he gives it to her, and she eats it. When I see that she ate the donut, I was upset. Why would you ask him for it? You knew that I wanted some too. So I kind of tap her on her arm like that. Like, why would you do that? You knew I wanted some of that.
You were supposed to share.
Hey!
He got upset by that. And she's not crying or anything. He just rushed up to me like, don't you put your hands on her, and I'm just kind of scared. He picks me up by my arm. He's hitting me with his hand. I was terrified, and he was hitting me hard. You know, I'm crying, I'm hysterical. I didn't know how far he was gonna take it. Eventually, he stopped. I don't remember telling my mom, but I know I did tell her. She probably would have told me something like, I'll take care of it, or don't worry about it, I'll talk to him. After that incident, I definitely was more afraid of Isaiah. I stayed clear of him. When he got home, I made sure I was nowhere in sight.
This picture is a picture of my winter formal. My mom helped me pick out my dress, she helped me pick out my accessories, and she did her famous hairstyle, microwave curls on me. That was a good day. This moment was special because Isaiah couldn't pull her away. I was able to be her baby doll that day. So I think she enjoyed that just as much as I did. That was the last time she helped me get ready for anything. Once Isaiah came, things changed because I wasn't able to be as close to my mom. Sucks because, like I said, like she helped everybody else get ready for prom and graduation and things like that, but that was it for me. That was it. There had been a couple of mice in the house. Well, my mom set out traps to catch them. She told Isaiah to dispose of them before we could see it because of our fear of them. One morning, I remember waking up and I was getting up, getting ready for school. So we're all going to the bathroom. And as soon as we walk in the bathroom and turn the lights on, immediately I noticed there's a dead mouse in the sink, and there's a dead mouse in the toilet, and there's also a dead mouse inside the tub. Instead of disposing of them, Isaiah put them inside of our bathroom. Me and my sisters, we took off running, screaming, crying. Like, we were really, shooken up by that. Isaiah was amused. He just stood in the doorway laughing. He thought that was funny. That's not normal behavior for somebody his age. So it just shows you what type of individual he is. He went out of his way to use those against us, to terrorize us.
When I learned that my mom was pregnant by Isaiah and having another baby, I was upset. I didn't think about, oh, I'm having another sibling. I just thought, like, now we're really not going to get rid of him. Because as a kid, I would just wait for the day where they would just break up and he would just leave. And it would never happen. So when she had the baby, it was just, I was upset.
This is a picture of my mom and my baby brother, and it was Isaiah. But I scratched his face out of the picture. He didn't have any relationship with him. He didn't play with him. He didn't change him. He didn't feed him. He never even referred to him as my baby. It was that baby. During that time, I hated Isaiah's existence. I hated anything that involved him outside of my brother. I would be upset because everything I was going through, everything I felt at that time, as far as being alone and feeling like unwanted and lost, he was the cause of all of that because he took my mom away from me. At that time, all I could do was just cut him out. I do believe she feared Isaiah a little bit during that time, that a lot of times when my mom stayed away, it was to protect us. I remember one day, it was time for us to get up for school. So I got me and my siblings up and got everybody dressed. Isaiah was like, "Where's your mom?" And we was like, we don't know. He went into a rampage. He went into her room and dragged all the furniture out piece by piece. And he pulled everything out to the front yard and started smashing it with the hammer.
I have no idea what's going on until I see him outside breaking up stuff. To me, he looked like a madman. He looked crazy. That was the first time I seen him act that way. And like, what else is he capable of? So at this point now, I'm looking at him in a different way. And I'm thinking, well, what will stop him from killing us? I think at that time, I was scared that he was going to attack Shaquaya, my sister.
When Isaiah will go on his rampages, he's looking around. He's just staring at you, or he'll make eye contact with you. And like that thought, visualizing his face still gives me chills. Because it's just pure evil. Like, he didn't have any emotion on his face. Glasses are at the tip of his nose again, and he's looking over there. This is how he looks over at everybody. When you see that demeanor, you know that he's on a rampage. Then he started heading directly towards me because I was holding the baby. And he was walking towards me with the hammer. And all of a sudden, our neighbor across the street asked him, like, what you coming over here for?
What do you think you're doing?
And he goes, I'm about to bash that baby in the head because he not about to get raised by y'all. And that's when I start stepping back a little bit more.
Like hell you are.
I'm like shielding my brother. And she told him, her exact words was, over my dead body, you gotta get through me to get to these kids. So he just turned around, he got in his car and drove off immediately. I didn't understand why he was so angry. And it was just like the devil himself. It just seemed so evil and so dark. But looking back, I should have been scared. But the hate that I had for him didn't allow me to fear him at all. I remember one time I was home watching the baby. My mom wasn't there, he couldn't find her.
You gonna tell me where she's at?
When Isaiah couldn't find my mom, he would come to my room and he would say, where's your mom? And I'll be like, I don't know. And he'd be like, you know where she is. You know where she is, and you just lying for her.
I have no idea.
So the next thing was to pick at me because he felt like I was keeping her secret.
You wanna play that game, right?
So he took the baby and he knew that that would get a rise out of me. And I'm like, give me the baby back. I don't know where my mom is. I picked up this aluminum bat that I had, that I kept under my bed, and I told him, give me my brother back. And he's laughing and joking. It's like watching a demon take over a house.
Can you even swing that?
You've claimed that you were gonna, or threatened to smash him in the head with a hammer so that he wasn't raised by us. We didn't know what Isaiah was capable of, and I wasn't trying to find out with my brother. We had no clue what was coming next. No clue. Isaiah came in and took him because that was his way of antagonizing me because he couldn't find my mom. He ran outside with the baby. I chased after him to get my brother because I didn't know what he was capable of with the baby.
Put my brother down.
So me knowing that he loved his car, I turned around and I went to his car and I said, give me my brother. I'm gonna smash the windows on this car. And that got his attention.
Let him go.
I just remember thinking, Shakoya, please don't. At that point, I knew it was serious and I felt like my sister was in danger. I was scared. I didn't know how it was going to end.
And then he stopped and came closer to me and said, if you touch my car, I'm going to jail.
You think I'm afraid to catch the case?
I was more angry than fearful. So I'm like, give me my brother with the bat up, give me my brother, or I'm about to bash these windows out of this car. He put the baby down and he took off looking for my mom again. And I picked him up immediately and we just went inside the house. I definitely did underestimate Isaiah. I wasn't fully aware of what he was capable of.
There was a time that I can remember. We walked into the house and my mom was sitting kind of at this folding table. She used to play this card game. Her and Isaiah were playing.
Hey, Mom.
And, you know, I'm like hugging her, kissing her, whatever. And then I see in her mouth, her front tooth is missing.
Mom? Your tooth.
And I'm just like, what happened? And she's just like, oh, baby headbutted me and knocked my tooth out.
Just an accident. I'm all good.
I believed her, never questioned it, never thought about it again. Later on, me and Shakoya, we were talking. I brought that up, and Shakoya was just like, he didn't knock her tooth out. Isaiah punched her in her mouth and knocked her tooth out. And I was like, what? I'm shocked. I never heard that, never knew at that time that he was abusing her. It hurt to know that she was going through those sort of things back then at that time, and she was hiding it. She didn't want us to be scared, and my mom was always so happy, so I think she just didn't want to portray anything different. Okay. I think my mom wanted us to feel like everything was still the same. She didn't want us to feel her pain or know what was going on. My mom raised us to fight for ourselves, defend ourselves. So she couldn't show us that she was being beat. That would go against everything that she tried to teach us.
She didn't want anybody to try to speak up to Isaiah on her behalf because she knew it wouldn't go well. I feel like my mom did fear him. I don't know if she feared him because of what he was capable of with her or us or family. I'm not 100% sure, but there was definitely some fear there. But when you go through it every single day, all day, and there's no escaping this person, like, that's hell. That's hell. I remember going into my mom's room, which her bathroom was connected to the room. And then my mom was inside the tub. And I see Isaiah. Isaiah was standing over her, like he was standing outside the tub watching over her as she, bathed. And my mom responds to him like, I got this. I'm a grown woman. I know how to clean myself. I was just like, what kind of situation is this? Like, who does that? Bath is usually a sanctuary where people go to exhale and to unwind from a long day. And here he is taking those moments from my mom by standing over her. She didn't have any privacy. She didn't have a moment to herself. She didn't have the freedom to relax or that little bit of privacy that most people get. This wasn't a one-time thing. Anytime my mom took a bath, Isaiah was right there monitoring her, how she was bathing. Anywhere my mom went, Isaiah went. Isaiah did not want my mom to have a life of her own. And so that was his way of controlling everything. But normally, my mom would have put a stop to it a long time ago. So that's why I never really understood why she let him have so much control over her. And again, later on, when finding out the details, it makes a little bit more sense that it was intimidation and fear and control. At this time, Isaiah was the breadwinner. So when he got upset with my mom, he would not pay the bills. He would not put food in the house. So with him not paying the bills, we were left without water. We were left without electricity. And in the Arizona heat, that's a tough time. She'll ask him like, why did you let the water get cut off? Why didn't you pay the bill? He didn't care about the baby being there during these times when there was no water or electricity. We were in the dark. We were without food. We were without water. Isaiah will come back to the house and see that and leave. At this point in time, when we had no water, food, or electricity, that was the beginning of the end. I believe he knew that my mom was at her breaking point, but we had no idea what he was gonna do or who he was gonna take it out on. But we knew it was coming. After the eviction, we were all split up as a family. My mom and the baby stayed with one of my aunts, and I stayed with one of my other aunts. And my two sisters were in California, and my brother was in California with his dad as well. I missed my mom. I did not like being away from her and not living with her, but it was such a relief not to have to deal with him day to day. I felt like it was over, like it was done. There's nothing else you can do. There's nothing else you can say. I remember my mom coming to visit me, and when I saw my mom, I was very concerned about her appearance. My mom was super, super like bony, and her face was sunken in, like she had dark circles. It does seem like my mom was going through hell because her kids were taken away from her. We're all split up everywhere. She's still dealing with Isaiah's antics, with him stalking her, showing up to my aunt's house, showing up wherever she is. It just seems like she was just drained.
You sure you okay?
I'm fine.
I was concerned that she was letting Isaiah suck the life out of her. I told her that I wanted to actually like spend the night with her.
This weekend, you and me.
And she told me, yeah, she was gonna come get me. She told me she was gonna come get me. And I was looking forward to wanting to spend a night with her because it had been a while. So she told me she'll see me on Friday. So we had plans to just watch movies and eat and hang out. Before she left, I gave her a hug. And I was like, okay, I'll see you on Friday. I was like, Mom, just don't forget to come get me. And she was like, I'm not. I'll be back to get you. I never talked to her again. I never got to go spend a night with her. The morning of March 17th, 2006, I got up for school. In the car, on the way to school, my cousin got a phone call from her mom.
Hello?
All of a sudden, I noticed my cousin's face because I'm sitting behind her and she's driving, but I can see her in the rearview mirror.
What?
And I can see her face, and she was like, Mom, no, and she started crying. And I was like, what happened? And she was like, Koya's right here. She just looked at me in the mirror, and I was like, is it the baby? And she was like, no. I was like, is it my mom? And she was like, yeah, and I just lost it. Like, I will never forget that. I completely, like, just kicked, screamed, punched. I just could not believe it. And I was like, what happened? What happened? What happened? And she was like, we don't know yet, we don't know. And I was like, did Isaiah do it? And she said, yes. And I just felt helpless again, like, oh my God, like, I just wanted to get to her.
Emergency. This guy was just beating the heck out of this girl, and he was yelling, help me, help me.
I found out that night, Isaiah was blowing my mom up all day and night and begging her to come over. He told her he wanted to see his son. When she got over there, he began to beat her. And my mom was trying to fight back. She ran out of the apartment. She was beating on the doors of all the neighbors. Nobody opened the door.
911 emergency. Yes, there's a woman who is screaming at the top of her voice, and there's a little boy who's saying, "Oh, Daddy, oh, Daddy."
Isaiah came out of the house with the knife, and my mom saw him, and she took off running, and she slipped on the wet grass. He stabbed her continuously, all over, from her arm to her face, her neck, all over her body. He continuously did this until one of the neighbors opened the door and yelled, "Hey, stop." He looked at the neighbor and he said, "That's what happens when you try to turn a hoe into a housewife." And my mom collapsed right there from her wounds. Isaiah walked back into the apartment where my brother was. He called 911 and told them, y'all need to get here quick because I just cut my son's mom. I have my 3-year-old son here, and if you don't hurry up, I'm gonna do something else.
Then you committed a violent act?
Yeah.
What did you do?
With my wife, and we got a child together. I cut her with a butcher knife, but I know that she been treating me wrong too long. I couldn't take no more.
So he stayed on the phone until the police got there.
Okay, the police at the door now, so I gotta hang up.
Okay.
I believe Isaiah stayed there after calling 911 because he knew there would be street justice. And I know for a fact that's not what he wanted. There was nowhere for him to go. The only thing that was left for him to do was to turn himself in. This is a picture of Isaiah. This was a picture from the day of the murder. That's the face that he made all the time when he was gonna cause hell. The only difference is those glasses are not at the tip of his nose and he's not looking over at you. There was no change to his demeanor, except when he laughed, when he was terrorizing somebody. That's the only time you got a smile or a laugh, a chuckle, or anything. But other than that, this is how this man looked every day. That look, there's nothing there, just pure evil.
It's hard to see this man. I just have nothing but rage for this man. He definitely doesn't look remorseful. He doesn't look like he did anything that he feels bad about. I honestly think he turned himself in because my mom's brothers, my uncles would have been looking for him. He's a coward. Isaiah's a coward.
I don't go to the gravesite often. It puts me in an emotional state where I can't get out of it. I'll go and the whole day I'm just emotional. I feel nauseous and sick to my stomach all day for the rest of the day. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm upset. All those emotions come flooding back. And I can't get rid of it. It takes a lot of work and it takes time for me to get out of that headspace. Because it's not easy to get out of, or we don't really know how to navigate those emotions. I guess that's the best way to describe it, because we have all these emotions and we don't know what to do with them. We don't know who to talk to help us get through them. It's just like, we're upset.
Parency was a kind of holiness. Light everything up, show every fracture, let the world watch me mend people in real time. That was the fantasy. I told myself it was for education, for destigmatization, for progress. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I liked the hearts pulsing under my videos, the way strangers said I saved their lives without ever touching their hands, the way my voice, calm, measured, Swedish-lined, became its own kind of currency. The camera started as a tool, then it became a mirror, and then it became a mouth, swallowing me whole. The night my client died mid-sentence, the chat didn't stop. They didn't gasp. They didn't look away. They sent emojis, fire, prayer hands, a little clapping loop that kept repeating. I deleted everything the next morning, but silence is a strange creature. When you've been applauded long enough, even quiet can sound like cheering. I used to think my job required nothing more than presence, a soft chair, steady breathing, and the ability to absorb other people's storms without letting a single drop fall onto my own skin. That's what they taught us in school, anyway. Containment, boundaries. A therapist is a vessel with a lock. But they never taught us what to do when the vessel starts craving an audience. My name doesn't matter anymore. Not really. But back then, it mattered to me more than I'd admit. I was a licensed therapist in Stockholm, working in a clinic near Odenplan, where the windows were always fogged in winter and the silence inside felt curated, like a museum of broken people. I was good at my job, at least that's what everyone said. My colleagues admired my calm. Clients trusted the neutrality in my voice. Management praised my notes for being clean, structured, textbook perfect. Perfect. That word stayed with me longer than anyone realized. Longer than I realized. Perfection is a kind of hunger. Feed it once, and it becomes a throat that only wants more. I lived alone, which suited the performance of empathy. It's easier to hold everyone together when no one expects you to break. My apartment looked like the inside of a wellness app. White walls, pale light, plants that were somehow alive despite the lack of sun. On the dresser, my phone always glowing. Notifications felt like a pulse. Maybe that's where it began, not with greed or ambition or pride, but with loneliness, the quiet, Swedish kind that hides under your routines and pretends it's part of your furniture. I started posting small clips online, nothing clinical, just thoughts about boundaries, attachment styles, burnout, the usual therapeutic language that sounds wise because it's vague enough to apply to everyone. People loved it. They shared it. They asked for more. "You're saving me," they said. "You're so different from the others," they said. "Your voice feels safe." Safe. Another dangerous word. I should have stopped then. Should have kept it small, educational, controlled. But something changed the day my follower count crossed 20,000. I felt it physically, like a hand on the back of my neck guiding me forward. I told myself I was expanding access to mental health care. I told myself I was destigmatizing therapy. I told myself transparency was the future. But beneath those excuses sat a smaller, sharper truth. I liked being watched. Not in the sexual sense, not even in the narcissistic one. It was something more delicate, more insidious. The feeling of being validated without having to reveal anything real about myself. Therapists are trained to study microexpressions. I started studying metrics instead. Engagement curves, retention spikes, where viewers dropped off, where they replayed. Soon, I began recording pieces from real sessions, always audio, disguised, anonymized. Except anonymity is a thin veil when someone is desperate enough to see themselves in your story. People applauded my bravery, my radical honesty. They called it healing transparency, a phrase that still makes my stomach tighten. I felt revolutionary, innovative, important. But those words have a taste, and if you swallow enough of them, they turn metallic. You stop noticing the difference between service and self-serving. You start believing the applause is evidence of virtue, not temptation. The more the audience grew, the more I convinced myself the camera was harmless. Just an observer, just a witness, just a silent partner in the room. But it wasn't silent. Not for long. The first time I streamed a real session, fully streamed, with consent forms, disclaimers, ethical loopholes stretched like thin paper, I felt a jolt of something I hadn't felt since my early training years. Adrenaline. It terrified me, and it thrilled me. People tuned in, hundreds, then thousands. They typed hearts, emojis, clapping hands, little notes about how brave it was to show raw healing in real time. Raw healing. Another phrase that hides rot beneath poetry. I wasn't thinking about ethics, or supervision, or long-term effects. I was thinking about visibility, about the softness in my voice and how it played through a microphone, about the comments scrolling faster than I could read, about how, for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. By then, I had crossed the threshold, but I didn't know it yet. Crossings are subtle. You don't hear the door close behind you, not until you're too far inside to find the exit. Looking back, I understand this. I wasn't streaming therapy. I was streaming myself, my neediness, my vanity, my quiet craving for fame disguised as clinical innovation. And the audience? They weren't watching healing. They were watching collapse begin in slow motion. They just didn't know whose collapse it was. I wish I could tell you that the first streamed session was a one-time experiment, a curiosity I examined and then gently folded away like an old photograph. But you already know that isn't true. Temptation doesn't arrive as a scream. It arrives as a whisper, sliding under the skin before you realize you're warm. After that first session, something in my body changed. A sensation between thrill and guilt. A current that made my fingers tremble when I set up the camera again. And I did set it up again, and again, and again, until the act became routine, until the routine became identity. The viewership grew dangerously fast. Sweden has this reputation for privacy, for restraint, for emotional neutrality. But online, those same people watched me like I was fire in a frozen field. I became a kind of cultural contradiction, A therapist breaking the sacred vow of confidentiality while preaching boundaries in the same breath. And instead of condemning me, they adored me for it. Maybe that's what seduced me first. Not fame itself, but the absolution that comes with an audience willing to forgive anything as long as you keep feeding them. My followers didn't want me to help them heal. They wanted access to my voice, my methods, my clients, my slips, my emotional leaks. They wanted to feel like they were in the room, as if proximity alone could mend their own fractures. I told myself I was doing good, that the transparency was educational, that I was pushing therapy into the future. But the truth was simpler. I couldn't stop watching myself watching them watch me. Every night, I'd sit in my apartment scrolling through comments, hearing their words echo in my skull. "You're a pioneer. This is revolutionary. I've never felt so seen. Your face when the client cried, 'God, that was beautiful. Beautiful.' A therapist's work isn't supposed to be beautiful, but I took the compliment anyway. I started adjusting my posture on camera, moving slower, shaping my voice to feel deeper, wiser, more cinematic. I started curating my reactions in real time, not for the client, but for the audience. A subtle head tilt during a confession, a quiet inhale when someone described trauma, a softened gaze when they cried. I wasn't just guiding emotional journeys, I was performing them. And the more I performed, the more the metrics rewarded me. Views, shares, brand inquiries, invitations to podcasts and panels about radical therapeutic transparency. I felt chosen. It was around that time that the financial offers started sliding into my inbox. Small at first, then larger, then blatantly enormous. Companies wanted me to promote mindfulness apps, journals, lifestyle products. People wanted to book live therapy experiences with me, as if healing were a ticketed show. I didn't accept those offers at first, not because of ethics, but because I was waiting for the number in my follower count to feel big enough to justify the fall. That's the thing about ambition. It wraps itself around your guilt like rope, pulling it taut until the guilt becomes a kind of fuel. I hit 100,000 followers in March, 200,000 in April, 500,000 by summer. By then, my clinical supervisor had begun asking questions. "You're posting too much," she said. "Be careful," she warned. "This is a thin ice situation." And like every addict, I smiled and nodded and lied. "It's ethical," I insisted. "I follow all guidelines. I anonymize everything." Anonymize. A word that gave me permission to keep going. What I didn't tell her was that the camera wasn't only documenting my clients anymore. It was changing them. Some of them started performing too, sitting straighter, choosing trauma like it was dialogue for an audition, scanning my eyes to see if their pain was landing well with the unseen audience. People shape themselves to the room they're in, but now the room was infinite. I noticed the first real shift during a session with a teenager. Bright, anxious, hungry for approval. I'd seen his type 100 times. Self-blame wearing a hoodie, self-loathing disguised as humor. He was fragile in the way ice is fragile. Strong until the exact moment it shatters. He'd signed consent. His parents, too. Everything was legal. And yet, the moment we went live, his truth changed shape. "I just feel invisible," he said to the camera, not to me. "Like, maybe this is the only place I matter." The comments exploded. Hearts, crying faces, typing storms of empathy and voyeurism. And as I watched him watch the screen, I felt a tremor of fear. Not for him, but for myself. Because I realized I wasn't thinking about his healing. I was thinking about the numbers. If I leaned in now, the retention curve would spike. If I asked him to elaborate, the chat would go wild. If he cried, the clip would go viral. I saw myself weighing those outcomes, and that was the moment I should have stopped. But I didn't. Temptation never feels like a crossroads. It feels like momentum. I pushed forward. He cried. The clip went viral. My page grew faster than ever, and something inside me hardened. A little more metal, a little less human. The Swedish cultural paradox is this. We are a nation built on collectivism and modesty, yet online we pursue individuality with religious fervor. We want to be free but adored, humble but visible. I became an avatar of that contradiction. I stopped being a therapist who occasionally streamed. I became a streamer who occasionally therapized. Every boundary blurred, every hesitation thinned. Every night I lay awake watching replays of myself, trying to decide whether I was proud or horrified. The worst part? I didn't know anymore. Fame is a fog. You inhale it until you forget the shape of your own face. I forgot mine, and the audience, warm, hungry, ever-present, whispered in my ear, more, more, more. It wasn't a request. It was a command, and I obeyed. I don't know the exact moment when the camera became the real therapist in the room, when I stopped listening to my clients and started listening for moments that would land. But I can tell you the moment I realized I was addicted. It was late September, cold creeping through the Stockholm windows. I'd been streaming 4 sessions a week, then 5, then nearly every day. Always framed just right. Always lit warmly even when I wasn't. The numbers were climbing so fast it felt like standing on a moving escalator that never ended. My body buzzed with a kind of synthetic power, digital, invisible, yet unmistakably real. I began chasing bigger emotions. Clients with subtle issues didn't perform well, so I nudged them, gently at first, then less gently. Tell me more about the part that scares you. Let's stay with the feeling. That's what the viewers learn from. This might help others if you go deeper. Deeper. Another word that hides danger. My empathy became bait. My presence became a stage light. My clients became content. And the audience became everything. I told myself they needed rawness. I told myself the world was ready for unfiltered healing. Yet every night, after shutting off the stream, I'd scroll through the chat replay like a gambler checking the results of a bet. God, she's incredible. I feel like I'm in the room. This is better than any show. Better than any show. That line stuck to my ribs. I started giving them what they wanted. More crying, more confession, more pain. Pain plays well on screens. The chat became my second heartbeat. The comments shaped my questions. The emojis shaped my tone. And the likes were applause, and I wanted more applause. There's a particular client I still think about. Let's call her Eva. She was soft-spoken, careful, the kind of person who folded her emotions like laundry, neat, precise, private. When she agreed to stream her sessions, I should have questioned it. Her voice shook when she signed the form. Her hands trembled when she saw the red live indicator. But trembling looks intimate on camera, and intimacy keeps viewers watching. During one session, she was telling me about her childhood, quiet Scandinavian neglect, the kind that hides behind perfect school photos and immaculate dinner tables. Normally, I would have taken her pace, slow, gentle, respectful. But I felt the audience drifting. I felt the numbers dip. A small drop, 50 viewers leaving at once. I felt it like a bruise. So I pushed. Eva, I said softly, leaning in so the camera caught the angle just right. What was the moment you realized you were alone? She blinked, hard. Her breath caught in her throat. That's not... She paused. I don't know if I want... Just try, I urged, smiling, inviting, performative. It might help someone out there, someone who feels exactly the same. She looked at the lens instead of me, and I watched something in her collapse. A boundary. A door, a private room she'd never meant to open. She told the story. The audience exploded. Hearts like confetti, comments overflowing with sympathy and voyeurism. Eva apologized afterward as if she'd done something wrong. I apologized too, but not for pushing her. I apologized because the clip only reached 200,000 views. Streaming changed everything in the clinic. Some clients demanded to be on camera. Others refused and left my practice. Some started coming dressed nicer, wearing makeup, rehearsing lines. One even asked me mid-session, should I cry now or later? I laughed, then realized he wasn't joking. A therapist's office is supposed to be the one place where masks are removed. Mine became a place where masks were crafted. The worst part? I was proud. Proud to be seen as a pioneer. Proud of the community I'd built. Proud of the numbers that rose every time someone bared their soul for the world. This wasn't therapy anymore. It was spectacle, and I was the ringmaster. It was a Thursday, cold, sharp air. I remember the way the camera light reflected in the window, a tiny star trembling in the glass. My client that night? Jonas, mid-30s, quiet, fragile in ways he didn't want to admit. He carried guilt like a shadow. He had agreed to stream, he'd streamed before, but that night he walked in looking distant, hollow, as if his thoughts were somewhere too far for me to follow. I should have canceled the session. Any real therapist would have, but thousands of people were waiting in the chat, commenting, speculating, anticipating, and I didn't want to disappoint them. The session started slow. Jonas spoke in half sentences, drifting in and out. I asked questions, searching for emotional peaks the way a director searches for a climax. The audience was restless. He's boring. Why is he so vague? Get to the real stuff. I saw the comments. I heard them. I let them shape me. Jonas, I said gently, you mentioned last week that you had thoughts, darker thoughts. It might help to explore those again. His eyes flickered. He swallowed. I don't think I should talk about that here. Why not? I asked. Someone watching might feel understood. There it was, the justification that made everything permissible. He hesitated, looked at the lens, exhaled. Then he spoke about the weight he carried, the exhaustion, the quiet hopelessness. Not graphic, not descriptive, but unmistakably real. A life stretched thin. The chat slowed. People sensed something shifting, something heavy. Jonas, I whispered, what do you feel right now, in this moment? He paused, a long pause, too long. Then he said, I think I'm done. The words hit me before I understood them, a cold bloom in my spine. Done with the session? I asked, reaching for grounding. Done with... But he was already moving, already standing, already leaving the frame. I called his name. The audience went silent, silent in the way a crowd goes silent before the crash. And then he was gone. Not violently, not loudly, just gone. A shape disappearing through a doorway and into a decision he had already made long before this session. I froze. The camera kept rolling. The chat erupted. Is this real? OMG, this is insane. Where did he go? Is this performance art? Therapy Live plot twist. Plot twist. Someone wrote, plot twist. My chest tightened. My throat closed. I ended the stream with shaking hands, but the damage had already gone global. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember grabbing my coat. I don't remember locking the clinic door behind me. I just remember running. Stockholm at night is usually a comfort. Quiet streets, soft lights bleeding through apartment windows, the hum of a city that prides itself on restraint. But that night, the air felt sharp, metallic, wrong. My breath fogged in front of me like smoke rising from something already burned. I told myself Jonas just needed space. I told myself maybe he'd gone home. I told myself anything except the one truth pounding like a fist against my skull. You pushed him. You pushed him for them, for the audience. I called his phone, straight to voicemail. I called the emergency line. I gave them the last known address. I tried to sound calm, professional, helpful, but my voice cracked on his name. When the responders arrived at his flat, I knew before they told me. I knew from the way their eyes softened, from the silence that followed my question, from the way my stomach dropped even though my body was standing perfectly still. Jonas was dead. Not hours later, not sometime after. Minutes. Minutes after walking out of my session, my stream, my performance. They didn't say suicide at first. They didn't have to. I could hear it humming beneath every carefully chosen word. And then, as if the universe had a cruel sense of timing, my phone buzzed. Notifications. Hundreds. Thousands. I opened the app without thinking, and the first comment I saw nearly made me drop the phone. OMG, that exit was iconic. This show is wild. Plot twist of the year. Is Jonas okay, or is this ARG content? ARG, alternate reality game. They thought he was part of a storyline. The collapse started right there, in that freeze-frame moment when his death collided with their entertainment. Something inside me buckled. My knees felt weak. My throat felt full of static. My heart was beating in a rhythm I didn't recognize, like it was trying to escape. I deleted the stream, every copy, every clip, every replay. I deleted the thumbnails, the logs, the descriptions. It didn't matter. Nothing online dies when you delete it. People screen recorded everything. They re-uploaded fragments, theories, edits. Hashtag the streamed session trended globally by morning. My name, his name, the clinic's name, all braided into hashtags, reaction videos, commentary threads. Everyone dissected my voice, my posture, my final question. Why did she push him like that? Was she manipulating him? Did she know he wasn't okay? Is she liable? Is this the darkest live stream in internet history? Some defended me, some crucified me, most just consumed. And through it all, the emojis kept coming. The prayer hands were the worst, ambiguous, empty, a gesture that meant nothing and everything depending on who typed it. I shut down my channel at dawn, not with ceremony, not with a statement, just a single swipe of a finger. Delete, delete, erase. But deleting felt like sweeping leaves off a cliff, useless. The ocean below would always throw them back. The police called, then the clinic, then the ethics board, then journalists, dozens of them hungry for a quote. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I didn't eat for 2 days, didn't sleep, didn't speak. My apartment felt wrong, bright in all the places I wanted dark, quiet in all the places I wanted noise. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jonas looking at the lens instead of me. I saw the exact moment his expression emptied out. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just resigned. And I heard my own voice, that gentle, coaxing, performative tone, nudging him toward confession, because the audience was drifting. That thought alone nearly broke me. By day 3, I was on every news site. They used the worst still image they could find, the shot where I leaned forward earnestly, eyes soft, hands folded, like I was petitioning the world for approval. Headlines screamed, "Therapist live streams client's breakdown. Death on air. Who is responsible?" The moral cost of viral therapy. They played the stream audio on national television. Not the full thing, not the quiet parts, only the moments where the tension peaked. The clip where I said, "Someone watching might feel understood," over and over on loop. My voice became evidence. People debated whether I should be arrested. Others demanded I be banned from practice for life. Some insisted it was all a misunderstanding. A few, the darkest corners of the internet, called it performance art genius. I didn't recognize any version of myself being discussed. They weren't wrong, and they weren't right. They were just loud. And the silence inside my apartment grew louder in comparison. Guilt has stages: shock, self-defense, anger, wallowing. Then the one no one names, the numbness that arrives when you've cried yourself empty. I reached that stage on the 4th night. I sat on the floor of my living room, back against the couch, knees pulled up, staring at my blank TV screen. My phone lay face down beside me, buzzing occasionally with messages I refused to read. I kept replaying the session in my head, even though I had deleted it. The internet hadn't. I didn't need the file. It lived inside me now. I heard the comments, the clapping emojis, the jokes. And beneath all of that noise, a single question kept looping. Why didn't you stop? I knew the real answer, not the ethical one, not the professional one, the real one. Because I liked being watched, and I couldn't admit it until it was too late. Even then, in the darkest part of the collapse, I wasn't thinking about redemption or healing or repair. I was thinking about applause. How even in the silence of my apartment, I could still hear it, distant, echoing, a phantom sound clinging to the inside of my skull. And the thought terrified me more than anything else. What if I missed it? What if, underneath all the guilt, I still wanted to be seen? That was the deepest fracture, the moral split I didn't know how to close. I sat there, shaking, staring into nothing, feeling the weight of both grief and addiction. And then, just when the numbness finally settled in, my doorbell rang. A single chime, soft, sharp, unavoidable. I didn't move. It rang again and again until the silence broke. The doorbell kept ringing, each chime sharp enough to split the numbness I'd wrapped myself in. I didn't want to move. My body felt like wet sand, heavy, collapsing into itself. But something in the sound, something patient and persistent, pulled me upright. Not curiosity, not fear, something quieter, something older. I opened the door. It wasn't the police. It wasn't journalists. It wasn't the clinic director, armed with disciplinary forms. It was Eva. She stood there in an oversized coat, shoulders tightened against the cold. Her eyes were red, not freshly cried, but exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that grows behind the ribs. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We just breathed into the cold, thin space of the doorway. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with memory. I stepped aside. We sat in the living room. No lights, just the gray of Stockholm dusk leaking through the window. I hadn't seen Eva since her last stream session, the one I'd pushed too hard, the one I'd treated more like a storyline than a soul. She looked smaller now, or maybe I looked larger, swollen with guilt. "I shouldn't be here," she said quietly. "I know the rules." There it was, the old therapeutic boundary, still alive somewhere in her. A boundary I had shattered, a boundary she still respected more than I did. "You can go," I whispered. "I won't hold you here." She shook her head. "I didn't come to accuse you." That line cracked something open in me. Guilt, grief, gratitude tangled into one unbearable knot. Then she added, "I came because I saw your face on the stream before you ended it." I looked down. My hands were trembling. "You looked terrified," she said, "and alone." Alone. The same loneliness that started all of this. Not loud or dramatic, but the slow, Swedish kind that hides under silence until silence becomes home. The confession didn't happen all at once. It came in fragments, breaths, pauses, half-sentences collapsing into full truths. "I pushed you," I said. "I pushed all of you. For views, for praise, for numbers. I told myself I was helping people, but I was helping myself. And Jonas." My voice split. The room felt too small. Eva didn't move. She didn't comfort. She didn't condemn. She simply held the space, the way I should have held it for her. "I let the audience shape me," I said, "and I shaped you to fit them." "You shaped yourself," she replied softly. "We all did. The moment that camera turned on." Her honesty hurt more than any accusation. I rubbed my hands together, trying to scrub away the memory. "You trusted me," I whispered, "and I used that trust as content." Eva looked out the window, the city glowing faintly under a cold sky. "I trusted the camera too," she said. "Maybe because I didn't trust myself. Maybe because it was the first time someone paid attention." A pause. "Not just you, all of them, the people behind the screen." She'd said the thing I'd been afraid to admit. The audience wasn't just my temptation, it was hers too, and Jonas's, and countless others. Visibility is intoxicating, and the internet pours generously. "I'm sorry," I said. The apology felt too small, too thin, like a single thread trying to hold back a flood. Eva nodded, not in forgiveness, not in anger, but in recognition. "I'm sorry too," she said, "for wanting the attention more than I wanted healing." We sat in silence for a long time. This silence was different from the one in my apartment earlier. It wasn't empty, wasn't cold, wasn't mocking. It held weight. It held truth. It held the thing I'd forgotten, connection without performance. At some point, Eva spoke again. "I went back and watched old videos," she said. "Not the streams, the early ones, before everything sped up. I didn't know what to do with that information." "You looked human then," she continued. "Not polished, not perfect, just present." I swallowed. "And later?" I asked quietly. Her eyes softened with something like sadness. "You looked like a reflection, like you were trying to see yourself through other people's eyes, like the camera became your mirror." A mirror. Yes, that was exactly it. An endless mirror, reflecting not who I was, but who I wanted strangers to think I was. And Jonas, maybe he saw himself in that mirror too. Maybe he didn't like what he saw. A sharp breath escaped me. The ache was too much. I can't undo any of it, I whispered. I can't fix what's broken. Eva shook her head gently. You can't fix the past, but you can face it. Her words landed with the softness of snowfall, quiet, inevitable, cold, cleansing. And for the first time since the collapse, I felt something shift in my chest. Not release, not redemption, but the smallest hint of breath returning. We talked for hours, not as therapist and client, not as content and creator, just two flawed people sitting in a room that no longer needed an audience. When she finally stood to leave, she paused at the door. You're not the villain the internet wants you to be, she said, and you're not the hero you wanted to be either. Her hand lingered on the doorknob. You're just a person who got lost. Lost, yes, lost in applause, lost in ambition, lost in fame's quiet hunger. After she left, the apartment fell into silence again. But this time, the silence didn't feel like cheering. It felt like truth, raw, quiet, solid. I went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at the mirror. The real mirror, not the digital one. For the first time in months, I didn't recognize the eyes looking back. But I didn't look away. Face it, I whispered to myself, not as a performance, not as content, as a promise. A long breath, a slow exhale, and then a sound from my phone. Not a notification, not a message, a voicemail. From a number I didn't recognize. I pressed play, and Jonas's voice filled the room. The first thing I noticed was his breathing. On the voicemail, before Jonas said a single word, there was this soft, uneven inhale. Not dramatic, not heavy, just human. A sound I'd heard 1,000 times in session, now living inside my phone. Then his voice. Hey, he said, almost awkwardly. It's Jonas, from, obviously. A small, strained laugh. I sat down on the edge of my bed, phone pressed to my ear, every muscle tight. I don't know if you'll hear this before or after everything, he continued. I'm not sure which way it will go yet. A pause. You could hear him thinking. I wanted to say, I know what I'm doing is mine, my choice, my weight. You didn't put it here. You didn't create it. It was already there when I met you. I closed my eyes. I'm not saying you did everything right, he added softly. You pushed me, sometimes too hard, sometimes for them, not for me. I saw it. I'm not stupid. Another pause, longer. But you also sat with me when no one else did. Before all of this, before the streams, when it was just your office and that stupid plant in the corner and bad coffee. I smiled, despite myself. The plant had always been half dead. I felt less crazy there, he said. Not fixed, just less alone. My throat tightened. I don't know if this message helps or hurts, he went on. That's the thing. You'll probably overanalyze every second of it. That's who you are. He was right. But I wanted you to have this one piece that's not public, not performative, not for the audience, just for you. A final breath, steadier this time. You didn't save me, he said, and you didn't kill me. A small silence. You were just there, in the middle of my story, and I wanted you to know that some part of me was grateful, even when I was drowning. A click. The message ended. I sat there, phone still against my ear, long after the room returned to silence. Jonas was gone. Nothing in his words changed that. There was no absolution, no cinematic forgiveness, just a simple, unbearable truth. I was part of his story, not its author. And for the first time, I understood something about my role, what it was supposed to be, what I had turned it into, and what it could never be again. I didn't go back to the clinic. There were inquiries, hearings, official language etched into letters and emails, negligence, ethics review, license suspension, public trust. I attended them all, sat in sterile rooms, answered questions, didn't defend myself more than necessary. They stripped my license for an indefinite period. They wrote long reports about my gross boundary violations and conflict of interest in the therapeutic frame. They weren't wrong. I didn't fight the decision. Some things shouldn't be fought. Some consequences need room to land. The internet moved on faster than the institutions. New scandals, new controversies, new faces to applaud and destroy. My name sank lower in the feed each week until it was just another footnote in some think piece about the dangers of parasocial therapy. But offline, the consequences stayed loud. The first time I walked past the clinic building and saw someone else's name on the buzzer, it felt like reading my own obituary. A life I'd built and broken, reduced to an old listing. I didn't cry. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, breath clouding the glass, thinking, you wanted to be seen. Now you get to be invisible again. What will you do with that? I found small work. Not as a therapist, not in any official capacity. I took a job in a community center, helping coordinate support groups. I wasn't allowed to lead them, not formally. I made coffee, rearranged chairs, printed handouts, managed schedules, sat in the back of the room while others facilitated. Sometimes people recognized me. A flicker of awareness, a double take, a whispered, "Is that?" But no one said it out loud. Sweden is good at silence. If anyone asked, I told them the truth in the simplest possible way. I used to be a therapist. I'm not anymore. Most left it at that. A few nodded with a kind of quiet sympathy, like they sensed there was more, but respected the boundary I should have respected years ago. In those rooms, something shifted inside me. I watched people share, cry, laugh, sit in the discomfort of their own stories, without cameras, without hashtags, without anonymous spectators waiting to react. There were no emojis, no clapping loops, no trending tags, just pauses, breaths, shaky sentences. And I realized how starved I had become for this. Unremarkable, unrecorded human connection. No performance, no applause, no data, just presence. On some nights, I still hear the phantom noise, the imagined roar of an audience that isn't there anymore. My brain plays tricks, overlaying old reactions on new moments. I'll be washing dishes and suddenly remember a comment, "She's a genius!" Turning off a lamp and hear another, "She's a monster." Genius, monster. The internet loves extremes. I lived in them for too long. These days, I practice holding a different idea. I am neither. I am someone who was handed a kind of power she wasn't wise enough to carry. Someone who confused visibility with worth. Someone who mistook applause for love. And someone who now understands that some rooms must never have cameras. Not because transparency is always bad, but because some healing requires privacy, and some truths can only survive in small, unseen spaces. A year after Jonas died, I visited the water near his old neighborhood. Not to perform closure, just to stand where the air was cold and honest. I didn't speak to the sky, didn't apologize to the waves, didn't rehearse some monologue in my head. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, listening to the soft slap of water against stone. I was there, I whispered finally. That's all. I was there. And I'm sorry I made it about me. The wind didn't answer. The world didn't soften. Nothing grand shifted, but something inside me loosened just enough. Acceptance, I've learned, isn't a clean feeling. It's not peace. It's not freedom. It's the decision to live with what you've done without letting it be the only thing you are. People sometimes ask me quietly if I'll ever go back to therapy, officially, with licenses restored and practices rebuilt. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. If I do, it will be in a small room. No lights, no lens, no audience. Just 2 chairs, 2 people, and a silence that belongs only to them. Until then, I stack chairs after meetings, refill sugar bowls, wipe down tables, sit in the back and listen when I'm allowed, leave when I'm not. It's a smaller life than the one I built online, quieter, less visible. But in that quiet, something true has returned. I can hear people again, not as content, not as performance, just as themselves. And when I go home at night, unlock my door, step into my apartment, the silence no longer sounds like applause. It just sounds like silence. And for the first time in a long time, that is enough.